Despite the bellyaching regarding the Switch from people including myself, I'm going to own up to the fact that I have been quite critical of the machine, and that's probably not going to change. It has been doing rather well for itself and has been well received by fans and of course developers as well, and of course that developer support is absolutely critical. As I've mentioned many times now, one of the things that led to the demise of the Wii U was the lack of support from third-party developers, be that AAA or indie. They're both, I would say, required to have a successful console these days. Especially when the Nintendo first-party titles, as good as they are looking a bit sparse when you look at a picture of an entire year's worth of releases. However, we have some comments here from Christian Svensson, who is the Chief Operating Officer at 6foot, who are a developer publishing a game by the name of Rime on the Switch in Q3 of this year, and they gave their thoughts on the console in a rather lengthy interview session with Polygon. And of course you can find that linked in the description below for your perusal. So, he naturally touched on the, not to be harsh, but the failure of the Wii U. I mean, let's be real, when it sold 11 million in its lifetime and Nintendo Switch has already sold over 2 million according to Super Data, it seems fitting to call it a bit of a failure. And he says, quote, "The Wii U audience never hit the broad market that, for example, the Wii did. And I think that the Switch has the ability to recapture some of the Wii magic in a couple of different ways. A lot of it has to do with the fact that it's a two-in-one system. The fact that it's trying to be a portable and a home console all in one package. First of all, it's an easy sell from a value for money family purchase standpoint. You know, I just think that if you looked at it as a portable only system, it's probably the best portable that has ever been. And if you look at it as a home system, it's capable, is probably the best way I put it. In that regard, I think the adoption is going to be broader than the Wii U was." Now, I have to break out quote here just to pretty much agree with him. I mean, a lot of there were numerous things that coalesced together to contribute to the Wii U's failure. But one of those elements, in my opinion, was definitely the confusing marketing surrounding it. I mean, if you look at the trailer compared to the original reveal of the Switch, they're like night and day. They're completely different. The Switch one was clear. You immediately got a sense of what the Switch was, what it did. Immediately grasped the concept. Simple, clean, awesome. The Wii U, confusing. Was it an add-on to the Wii? Was it a standalone console? Like, the messaging was all over the place just in this one trailer. I'll see if I can find it and link it below. And again, the Switch was just so much better. The Wii U was really confusing. A lot of people, even in the gaming community, thought, is this like a tablet for the Wii? And obviously, if you're not involved in the gaming community, you walk into your local game store to buy a new game, either for yourself or, you know, for a present or perhaps for your child or what have you, and you see this thing on the Wii U on the shelf, you're immediately going to think, oh, I don't need that, I already have a Wii. You know, that would be an understandable thought to have, so I definitely have to agree that. And the fact that it is a two-in-one is useful, but to be honest, I think the Switch's strength is the fact that it is a handheld, really, because as a handheld, it's very impressive. As a console, not so much, so really, it is nice that you get the extra value of a two-in-one, but really, in my opinion, the Switch should just be viewed as a handheld, really. So, I kind of rambled on a bit there, but one of the reasons that the Wii U audience never hit the broad market is again because of the confusing messaging along with other things as well. Now, obviously, development tools are absolutely critical for a console and its adoption rate by developers. You know, it's all great for Nintendo to perfectly understand the engine that they have built for this particular game, for this particular system, but also you have to give third-party developers the tools to make it as easy as possible to bring that PC game or PS4 or Xbox One or whatever it happens to be over to the Switch. And obviously, when you're dealing with a game that can be 2 resolutions as well, you need to make their lives easier, and apparently improved development tools are a huge part of why the third-party support is better on the Switch than it ever was for the Wii U. And he said, quote, "Our reasons for porting Rime were we wanted to reach a broad audience and this type of game that feels like it belongs on a Nintendo platform. I don't know that you could say that for every game out there. Everyone's got to have their own reasons for porting. From a technical perspective, the amount of work is not trivial. There are definitely easier platforms to get to. Without getting into details, a lot of it has to do with RAM limitations relative to the PS4 and Xbox One, as an example. So it's a trickier, even notwithstanding process differentials between those platforms. As for as far as why more people are doing it, here is an obvious one. Better support for certain engines. Obviously Unreal never existed on a Wii U or 3DS, and it exists, or will more properly exist eventually, on Switch. That's a huge thing. There are certain tools that exist on Switch for performance and optimization that never existed on Nintendo platforms before. It's a huge step forward on those fronts, so maybe that's what's giving developers a little more confidence to say, you know what, we can figure this out, we're not sort of feeling our way through the dark. And that's a fair point. This is why when they announced, that being Nintendo, that they were going to be supporting the Unreal Engine for the Switch, I said, well done. That is a very, very smart move. While, of course, it is associated with a lot of AAA games, it is, of course, used by smaller guys as well, and having Unity support would absolutely be critical as well, because, you know, the amount of indie games that use that, as well as games like, as well as engines rather, sorry, like Game Maker and so on. You know, you need to support those if you're going to be supporting indies and even some cases AAA developers in the current market. And Nintendo have undoubtedly learned their lesson from the Wii U, that you can't just snub third party and say, yeah, we can sell this on the strength of our first party alone, because while that might work at first, like we've seen with Zelda, it has been selling very well. Eventually people are going to want more games to play on the system, and if you have a strong library to back it up, then the sales will continue, and third-party developers are part of that, and working with them, making their lives easier, is definitely something that can help with that. Obviously we had comments before from indie developers. I discussed a while back some comments from the guys over at Nicalis. Of course, you probably know who, you probably know if you're a fan of The Binding of Isaac, because of course they are the guys who did make that game, and according to them, and again according to this fellow from Rime, or from the development team of Rime, it is way easier to port to the Switch than it ever was for the Wii U. So I'm just pleased to see Nintendo learning their lessons in some ways, and bizarrely not in others, with how their whole friending system and everything has been implemented on the Switch, as well as a few other decisions that I don't really agree with, but you know, it's baby steps, baby steps. Regardless, that is me done for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.